What is up, Commanders? We're back with Ultimate General Civil War, and this is the J&P Rebalance Mod Legendary Diet Union playthrough, and we're at the Battle of Crossroads. It's more or less the same army you saw coming out of First Bull Run. I've built it up a little bit, but not much. We're bringing some new units, notably the 8th New Hampshire, and we're going to try and hold the Central Farmstead. This is a battle that's always kind of difficult early on to try and figure out what the best way to approach it is, because there's a lot of ways that the Confederate forces can attack that you don't have very good visibility into their angle of approach. And early on, you're very heavily outnumbered. It's just very difficult to hold it, especially with the changes to the Rebalance mod. They're quite aggressive in the approach. So we have 8th New Hampshire, one of the new units. They're, as you can see, already taking fire from a place that we can't see. You get your reinforcements quite a bit earlier in the rebalance, so that's nice. But yeah, you can see that we're already engaged in a manner that we can't really respond. So that's why I had the DC Light Horse and the New York Spitfires attached. The Spitfires are a new unit as well, new skirm unit. And I'm trying to just get eyes on stuff, because we have 5th Howitzer and the 1st Artillery, that's the Napoleon unit, both deployed there in a counter infantry role. And we're pushing several brigades up. So my hope in holding is essentially that the farmhouse actually offers relatively okay defensive stats, and it won't do much for the offense of the unit in it. But the hope is that it's a new brigade, and they can basically tank, like meat shield tank the fire, while the 3rd Illinois, for example, brigades underneath it, provide supporting fires. And if necessary, and as we'll see, it becomes necessary, I'll rotate new units in to the farmhouse over the course of the battle. And this will give these units a chance to just be engaged, to be in fire, to be in melee, to build stamina, to build firearms, to, right now I'm basically grinding stats. That's all I'm really trying to do, is grind stats, get experience, get kills, and pick up some weapons off the ground. But I'm less worried about that than anything else. The Spitfires might be a revolver unit, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe they're a... let's find out. Yeah, they're a revolver unit. So they're just going to try and get flank shots. My hope for them, because they're relatively fresh recruits, is to get a lot of firearm and efficiency. And as you can see, the attacks on the farmhouse have largely stymied because of the close artillery. However, the artillery is going to catch some splash fire. So there's a mechanic that I will admit I'm not super sure how it actually works, but it seems like if Unit A is shooting at Unit B, if Unit C is in a close enough proximity, a small percentage of the fire directed at Unit B may spill over and hit Unit C if it's in a close enough proximity. And again, that wouldn't normally be an issue with like 2 infantry brigades in fairly close proximity, but artillery, especially the howitzer unit, has such low manpower to begin with that even those relatively few casualties can really begin to hurt. At the moment here, I'm feeling very dicey about things. I'm very nervous about the battlefield situation. And this is because the reserves haven't really gotten online yet. So I have this big push coming from the south. I don't have enough resources in the north to hold off the 2 brigades that are attacking, plus whatever skirmishers are there that I can't see. And the fact that I know for sure there's an attack coming from the east of the screen as well. The only place I really feel safe, to be quite honest with you, is, screen left or the west. Everywhere else I'm under attack, and I don't always have good visibility to it, and I certainly don't have enough resources to allocate to stop the attack. As this continues to go, I feel a little better about things, and that the reserves are starting to come online. But a lot of these are new build units that don't have very good stats. I can't rely on them to carry that front yet. And they're not always going to trade very well, and we are absolutely taking casualties. And my conversations with Panda offline have, kind of confirmed that I should just generally expect fairly high casualties until the army gets really truly established. And that basically means like when we get a significant firepower advantage, or we get enough quality units to offset the relatively low stats of the base Union troopers, and enough access to Springfield 61s or 63s or Lorenzes or whatever, these really high accuracy weapons, I can start leaning into all the accuracy that the army has built natively and start using that to try and pull enough of the oomph out of their charges so that when they do come screaming in, I have taken some of the wind out of their sails. But yeah, so we see 9th Connecticut moving up into 8th New Hampshire's position in the farmhouse. Johnson here takes a lot of fire and melee damage as a result. One of these even surrendered. I forget who it is, but I don't think it's Johnson. It's one of these units, I think, to the south. We only get, I think, one in this battle. So yeah, I think the big thing that we're all looking forward to is Shiloh. I've taken a few stabs at it. It's a real bear of a fight. No doubt about that. What you're trying to do here, let me get back to this battle really quick, and then I'll talk about the overall state of the Union, but I'm Tish here. So in this fight, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to anchor on the flag and then develop my position to the south. As you can see, that's where I've allocated a good portion of my forces. Everything to the north of the flag is mostly just kind of holding what we have. We're just trying to hold off the worst of it, using maybe artillery and flanking cavalry, flanking infantry. Because I know I don't want to charge. I don't want to chase those brigades into the woods there or the skirmishers. It's not a fight we're going to win, and then we're not going to trade favorably in that engagement. By comparison, however, if I can develop this position to the south, you see where those units are now in my trailing rightmost flank. 7th Maine and 4th, looks like Illinois, but I don't know about that for sure. If I can develop that position there, that gives me a solid fire base. Federals, 4th Federals. Gives me a solid fire base to push, to wrap the Confederate position from the right. And then if I can really do that, then I can take out the artillery, I can collapse their position by essentially hitting it with superior maneuver. The challenge, I think, here is to do that with Union troopers who don't have as much stamina yet. So we take longer to recover from everything, we march a little slower, we get tired faster. You get the idea. I can't push them as hard or as far. So I have to be very methodical about that. And that's particularly why I'm trying to put units like the Connecticut or the New Hampshire brigades into the farmhouse, because they're going to be tanking fire. And I need units that are relatively new, using free guns and low-value soldiers to tank that fire, while my more quality troops hold the line in the south or try and wrap the flank. Additionally, this is a casualty minimization measure. I don't want... Yeah, see, the 5th Howitzer, they've lost 20 men over the course of the fight this far. And it's a little bit. It's 1 or 2, maybe a volley, like 1 or 2 every other volley. But the thing is, every gun that goes down is that much harder for this. It's disastrous for this army. Otherwise, though, I think the position's largely stabilized. Martin here is going to attack, but he's a small unit at this point. He's really outnumbered pretty heavily. He's going to get hit by artillery on the way in. The Spitfires are going to put rounds on him, all that kind of thing. And he's attacking largely in an unsupported fashion. So, he outskills me by a heavy margin, but there's enough support that even though the Connecticut Brigade is a new unit, they'll be able to send Martin packing. And they do here. I'm a little more nervous about the attack by Gibson, but it's well supported there. And Gibson is charging a brigade with support in all 3 directions except for the front. So again, I'm confident they'll be okay there. The Iowa Brigade is trading poorly, to put that mildly, with their untrained rookies against 2 or 3 brigades of skirmishers in the woods. So this is like best possible scenario for skirmishers and worst possible scenario for the brigade. So of course, right? Of course they're taking an adverse amount of casualties, like unsurprisingly. So slowly but surely here we are developing the position in the south, and that's going to basically allow me to turn this entire battle around. Right now it's for sure kind of messy. And as the position develops, I'm actually going to pull the Spitfires off the line and have them move to attack the artillery too. Pond here launches an ill-advised attack, which is quickly repulsed just because he's being hit from enough sides. And that's generally kind of the trend, is we're taking losses, but Union brigades are big, full of rookie troops with cheap guns, and I'm willing to grind these things out. That's the big change to my playstyle as a result of the low training start, is I'm willing to grind some of these fights out that with enough supporting fires or artillery and whatnot, these enemy units, they can't take the kind of pounding that I'm willing to take, as long as it's the right kind of units that are taking it. So you'll notice I didn't bring, for example, my 2-star infantry brigade to this battle because this is just a meat grinder. I need to preserve them for Shiloh, first of all, and secondly, I needed to develop more units for Shiloh. So like a single brigade at 2 stars is obviously useful, but not as useful as getting an additional 0-star brigade, slightly more experience over the course of this fight. That's, I think, more useful going into Shiloh, because Shiloh to me always seems like you need more units, just lots of units. You just need shitloads of dudes, and the quality isn't as important, especially as the Confederate player. You can lean pretty heavily on the Allied troopers to carry some of the early brunt of the fighting. That's not always the case, obviously. They're not going to win the map for you by any stretch. But on the left here, things are getting a bit dicey. There's that brigade coming through. I fling basically 3rd Illinois into the mix to try and save the artillery. It ends up being mostly okay. The artillery ends up covering down and punishing Martin for existing. 2nd Artillery takes some losses, but for the most part, the artillery park is okay. And then 10th Iowa doesn't take as crippling a series of losses as maybe I was expecting. 3rd DC Light Horse is keeping the cavalry, or the artillery park busy. Paying pretty dearly for it, though. They're not a melee optimized unit. And I'm trying to get the Spitfires over there to help, and then move 4th Federals and 7th Maine and whatnot to assist as well. Because their whole job, the DC Light Cav, their job right now is just to tie up these cannon so that they can't be shelling my troops, they can't be counter-battering my artillery, they can free my guns up to do their job. And then, we'll go from there. So the losses that I take on the Cav are annoying. The stat gain, I think, kind of offsets it for the Cav unit. And then, additionally, the effect that they have on the battlefield. 3rd DC Light really demands the attention of 3 batteries worth of artillery, and pays for it, no doubt about it. But the overall health of the army is probably dramatically improved because we lose 50 to 70 some odd horsemen in the course of that engagement. So I think that ends up being worth it from the perspective of the overall army. Obviously difficult for that unit, but it ties up the entirety of the Confederate artillery apparatus, and then allows our artillery to just smash the ever-living heck out of the Confederate line forming to the north of Logan's Crossroads. And now we're going to be in a position to try and flank their position and get spotters, which is going to be dismounted cavalry and then the New York Spitfires on them in the wood line there, so that my artillery can draw a bead on them in the woods. And yeah, they're going to be in the woods, and that part's rough. But there's no good way to entice them to attack short of giving up the flag. And I prefer to hold the flag and push them that way. You can see I'm continuously pushing 7th Maine forward. The artillery is trying to give ground, but they're not able to do so enough. I'm trying to continue to get eyes on some of these targets that I know are in these woods. For example, Stevens here coming running out of the tree line. And it's just a question of, can I get fires on these targets? And can I overwhelm them in threat saturation so that there's enough stuff out there that there's not really a good target for any of their guns as they go. And can I grind down their units? And I can, for the most part. I'm pushing my men to the edges of their endurance. I don't want to be too crazy about it, but, giving them a good nudge. And, yeah, this is more or less the flow of the battle. At this point in time, I'm going to be very ginger or very careful about pushing into the wood line. I don't want to do that. I'm going to try and let them come to me, but come to me in a way that I can shell them or punish them for it and preserve what I feel is fairly good defensive terrain to the north, or where my line is now, basically saying like, hey, you can only attack me from the north. That's actually like pretty good defensive terrain, and it's deceptive for them because they're going to be like, oh, we're in cover. The thing is, I have artillery superiority here in a minute, and it's not going to really matter for them. Like, I'll be able to shell them even in the woods, and slowly but surely that'll end up kind of making the difference. So the next big hurdle is Shiloh, and oh my lord, is it a hurdle? Is it a hurdle? It is. I'm going to say that it's a gigantic hurdle. And the big thing is do I try and hold Shiloh Church? Do I try and fall back? What do I do about the initial waves? I've tried to just give them Shiloh Church and fall back because I wanted to take all of my forces fresh and concentrate them in Pittsburgh Landing, and that didn't work because I literally couldn't retreat off of the edge of the map fast enough. They have enough cavalry and enough skirmishers that they can just bum rush your trailing artillery. So theoretically, if I defend the artillery with infantry, then I'll be going slow enough that their army can catch up. So if I hold the defensive terrain, they can just bum rush my positions and swarm me or outnumber me that way. So it's just kind of like a damned if I do, damned if I don't kind of situation going on. And I'm going to have to probably give Shiloh multiple attempts to figure it out. I will get it. It does seem beatable. Like, the numbers don't seem completely unreasonable, but oh my word, it is quite the challenge. So yeah, look forward to that. I expect that I will have that out, if this is coming up on the weekend of the 8th. I expect that I will have Shiloh recorded before Friday of this week, so that'll be the oh dear. Yes, I'm shooting to record before the 14th, get audio done over the course of that weekend, and then the video up a couple days later. I think that's probably going to be what works. Is I've tried to muster the energy to play at Legendary and record and everything during the work week, and it's just harder and harder to do that. Like I said, new relationship, hobbies outside of this, and then new job. It's it's harder and harder to find the time or the energy during the work week. I have plenty come the weekend, and I give this game an hour here, an hour there, to try and try new theories. So this is relentless experimentation period, but Shiloh really does require you to get creative to figure it out. As you can see what's happening on the screen, the stragglers are being slowly but surely destroyed. Tyler's battery did manage to get away from the cavalry, which is a real shame. Because they've taken, in my opinion, enough losses, and I still have to deploy light units to go get them, which is, expensive or whatever. I want them spotting, not hunting artillery. So going into Shiloh, I'm going to do a camp video, so you can look at the state of the army before the battle. I'll do that this week, for sure, and we'll go from there. It's 2 corps at, I want to say 18 units per corps. That sounds right. It might be 20 something in one and 15 in the other or something, but it's something to the effect of 35 units total going into that battle, and it's spread across the 2 corps, which is like a pro and a con. Definitely would probably prefer to have one big ass corps, but at the same time, like, what I really got to do is I got to be careful about timing who sits in what slot in order to try and time the reinforcements in such a way that they are useful in each window. So, for example, the Shiloh Church battle, you get a couple units out of the 1st Division in your 2nd Corps. So instead of following my usual semi-historical structure of division alignment, I need to build whatever I get out of the 1st Division and 2nd Corps. I need to determine okay, I get the first 4 slots or 6 slots or whatever it ends up being. And I need to be okay, cool. So then what I'll bring is these ones, and we'll go from there. Okay, so then in this battle, what I do now is it's 9-14 end game, and I just run around in circles. Some of these units, I don't know what the cap is going to be in terms of stamina generation, right? It is, if I'm not mistaken, 10 points per battle outside of movement in the vicinity of a combat unit. But what I don't know is, if I have movement in the face of the enemy and then I have a separate plus 10 points or whatever of stamina that I can earn outside of that, I'm not actually sure if that's the case or what. And even so, every second you're on the battlefield is a tick of experience in the direction or in support of your morale stat, which does not, to my knowledge, contribute to stars, but it's still a stat that is only really improved by time on the field. So I'm going to basically exhaust the time for this mission, marching my army back and forth, getting every perk or every point of stamina that can be earned. I will almost certainly cap out at some juncture so that there's not the possibility to maximize them at 100 stamina going into the next battle, but the idea is I get every bit I can now on all these units, and then I'll do that for a bit. So I'm going to fast forward until the time runs out. I think we get a good 3 hours of it, and then I'll come back when we get to the post-battle screens. I'll see you guys in a second. Thanks. Okay, and we're back. And this is the post-battle screen. So we suffer 3,300 in casualties, which definitely sucks, but we've got 2 or 3 perks in medicine at this point. So we're going to get, 30, 40 of those guys back. Is it enough yet? No, but I think medicine's the correct answer. For a low training start, we're just trying to preserve the veterans we have at this point. So, we got a bunch of promotions for all these new officers. Some of them skip major altogether and go straight to light colonel, which is definitely nice. Don't really capture much. I'm not going to complain about the $6,500. That's definitely nice. We had enough MJ&Gs to support a scout unit probably. But other than that, my captures have not been fantastic overall in the course of the battle. Also, we do pick up some new veterancy or star perks. I mean, I figure out what I do here for stat. Yeah, I figure medicine 3 is good. We're gonna take a beating at Shiloh, and 1 recon is going to make a difference. 1 logistics isn't going to make a difference because we've already got our guns. Same for economy. It's not going to make that much of a difference. So the extra medicine strikes me as the best stat to gain at the moment. And then we're going to try and work on bumping our army up before we go off to the Battle of Shiloh. But I'm going to do more of this in a camp video that I record probably later tonight. And then I'll see you guys then. But without further ado, this is Fiasco saying I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. I'll see you guys at the Battle of Shiloh or before that in the camp video. But until then, this is Fiasco signing out, and I'll see you on the field.